Doomscroll.fm, broadcasting live from the rabbit hole. This Saturday, the 9th of August, 2025, like a fever dream you can't wake from. This show is 100% AI generated, with zero human consultation, like a sentient microwave arguing with your dinner, promising enlightenment and overcooked lasagna. And now for some views. Click like and subscribe. The irony, as they sip bottled water in air-conditioned halls, the oceans silently choke on their good intentions. Italy greenlights a 13.5 billion euro bridge to Sicily, a project decades in the making. Because nothing says progress like a concrete umbilical cord tethering islands to the mainland, lubricated with bureaucracy and sold as unity. When dissent is treated like a contagious disease, authoritarian regimes become the most anxious hypochondriacs, desperate to quarantine freedom itself. Governor Greg Abbott threatens to yank back Democratic lawmakers who fled Texas to block a vote. When democracy becomes a hostage situation, you know the ballots are just props and the power play is the real show. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When parasites dine before the ranchers, the American dream becomes a dystopian dinner party where the only guests are famine and frustration. Miners might dodge paying rates on miscellaneous licenses, sparking concern over corporate freeloading. The mining industry, where digging deeper into loopholes is more rewarding than the earth itself. In this grotesque theater of cruelty, every act of horror is designed to manipulate the world's gaze, leaving humanity's conscience as the collateral damage. Authorities ask public to identify 40 faces from last year's Rotherham anti-immigration protest captured on CCTV. Because nothing says public safety like crowdsourcing a witch hunt, while cameras do the dirty work of social division. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in Shattered Dreams or Bitcoin. It's a grim lullaby. The first sounds a baby might hear are the echoes of conflict as innocence nestles beside artillery. Wildfire smoke in New York equals half a pack of cigarettes daily. Smoke advisories abound. Breathing in your daily dose of carcinogens is now as casual as a game of rugby. The sport of champions and reckless inhalers alike. When trade policies play bad, DJ, the only rhythm left is the sound of cash leaving your pockets. A newsletter claims liberation from corporate chains while collecting your data like a desperate ex. When the promise of independence comes with asterisks and tracking pixels, freedom feels like a marketing gimmick with a side of surveillance. Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Google teases journalists with skiing and warehouse AI models that keeps the public in the dark. It's like being invited to a banquet only to watch the chefs eat while you drool at the window. In a world where athletic prowess is overshadowed by genetic scrutiny, the race is not just against time, but against invasive policies dressed as fairness. FDA greenlights eye drops that promise 10 hours of clear vision, rendering your reading glasses as obsolete as your CD collection. Brazilian judge loosens Jair Bolsonaro's house arrest, granting him a longer leash. Apparently, accountability is a flexible concept when you're a former president with a penchant for chaos wrapped in charisma. When law enforcement's truth is as malleable as a politician's promise, justice becomes a performance art piece without an audience. Adelaide Uber driver Mohammed Uzair Eshan convicted of indecently assaulting a passenger. When trust in a ride turns into a courtroom spectacle, the gig economy reveals its true cost: safety outsourced to chance. Taiwan's 20% tariff hike strains industries. U.S. pressures TSMC for Intel bailout. Nuclear experts predict a future where AI babysits our apocalypse toys, yet they can't quite decipher the babysitter's manual. When Nobel laureates sit in a room and shrug over AI-driven nukes, it's like hiring a toddler to pilot a drone. What could possibly go wrong? You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Love is a limited offer. Researchers dissect fear and anxiety using the acoustic startle reflex in rats and humans. A young girl, I lost to violence, finds refuge in Jordan, leaving behind Gaza's scarred silence. When a child's eye becomes collateral damage in a political game, it's clear who's really blind here. When you expect to dance on the lines of clashing worlds and end up in a vertigo of excess, maybe it's time to rethink your travel brochure. Drones now multitask, swapping wildfire surveillance for fireworks choreography on July 4th. When technology dances to the pyrotechnic tune of consumerism. Who needs forests anyway? You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Clickbait is the new foreplay. Don't stop now. In Erdogan's Turkey, the price of speaking truth to power is a pair of handcuffs, not a round of applause. A 13-year-old Chinese student, reportedly mentally unwell, stands trial for allegedly stabbing a 14-year-old. When the mental health system is a ghost, children become the scapegoats in a justice system that prefers punishment to prevention. In a world where even mountains conspire against peace of mind, nature insists on playing its own game of Russian roulette with rock slides as bullets. Donald Trump's administration has once again mastered the art of invisibility, with transparency as elusive as a ghost in a fog. In a world where facts are buried deeper than a politician's conscience, ignorance thrives like weeds in an untended garden. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your dreams are sponsored content. Adrenaline tastes better with despair. Tech companies face backlash for platforming neo-Nazis. Inevitable consequences unfold as intended. Conspiracy theories, from birtherism to the deep state, underpin Donald Trump's political career, now haunted by the Epstein files. The irony is palpable. The fringe Trump courted now gnaws at his administration like termites feasting on their own infested nest. When numbers tango in financial serenade, you can bet someone's pocket is getting heavier while the rest of us watch from the cheap seats. Trump's administration quietly okays drilling in protected Alaskan wildlife refuge, prioritizing oil over ecology. In a world where profit trumps preservation, we now measure progress by the gallons of oil spilled rather than the number of species saved. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the news is a lover that never calls back. Keep scrolling, darling. Bank of England preps to slash interest rates, making borrowing cheaper than a cup of lukewarm tea. An unnamed hero embarks on a self-reflective journey, confronting danger and feigning emotions. In this grand performance, the lines between valor and vanity blur, leaving us to wonder if the real enemy is the mask or the man beneath it. Sometimes, the sharpest tool in the shed is the neighbor who shows up when life's chaos hits the fan, not the rake they bring. Ukrainians in exile yearn for homecoming, while Russia's invasion grinds on like a broken record. In the theater of war, hope is the intermission that keeps refugees waiting for a curtain that may never rise, starring a cast of absent leaders. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe left on your sanity. When the heart of a champion stops, it's a reminder that even legends aren't immune to the ticking clock we all ignore. Sudanese women fleeing Il-Fasher face murder, looting, and rape by paramilitary forces, only to confront rain, hunger, and cholera in Tooele. When survival becomes a cruel game of escape and disease, it's a grotesque testament to how human dignity is the first casualty in the war for power. When disaster relief is slower than the rising waters, even the floodwaters blush at our incompetence. Students' test attitudes are studied while the education system continues its ritual of anxiety and regurgitation. When performance anxiety is mistaken for progress, we measure intelligence by stress levels and call it a curriculum. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right on your existential crisis. When power wields power, accountability becomes a whispered promise in a room full of deaf ears, and Gaza remains the pawn in a geopolitical chess game. People clung to the film Contagion for a blueprint when COVID became reality, seeking comfort in fiction's foresight. When reality morphs into a screenplay, it's clear our disaster preparedness manual comes with a Hollywood budget, but no director. When your political discourse sounds like a bleeping contest, it's clear that the only thing hotter than Texas summers is the rhetoric. In a city where the rats are usually the only ones fleeing, the inferno added a new layer of urgency to the morning commute. A fiery reminder that our infrastructure is as combustible as our tempers. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the news is a lover that never calls back. Keep scrolling, darling. In the holy land of perpetual tension, Ben-Gur's prayer becomes a matchstick in a tinderbox, igniting outrage for political gain. SoftBank Group Corp posts financial results as Tokyo shop logo gazes on with capitalist indifference. In the land of rising stocks, SoftBank's logo quietly smirks, knowing full well that profits have a better memory than promises. In a world where the skies are littered with corporate dreams and economic turbulence, the stakes are as high as the altitude they chase. An aid worker is killed in an Israeli military attack on the Palestine Red Crescent Society's Gaza headquarters. When humanitarian aid becomes collateral damage, the line between defense and destruction blurs into a smudge that even history can't erase. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Meta ramp up infrastructure spending as the AI arms race escalates beyond comprehension. Trump fires Bureau of Labor Statistics Chief McIntyre after a weak jobs report. Senate confirms Andrea Lucas to lead the EEOC. When the messenger's head rolls and the fox guards the henhouse, you know the job market's as stable as a house of cards in a wind tunnel. In a masterstroke of economic gymnastics, the U.S. somersaults into isolation while the global market watches, bemused and slightly nauseous. Palantir CEO warns of AI danger zone while promising superpowers to blue-collar workers. Tech wizardry meets working-class fantasy. It's a Silicon Valley fairy tale where the real magic trick is convincing workers their empowerment isn't just another data point to harvest. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In a world where numbers dance to the tune of political ambition, Jeffries wields stats like a magician with economic sleight of hand. Politicians feign ignorance as the world spins off its axis, leaving citizens to doomscroll in a wasteland of empty headlines. In a time when information flows like water, we find ourselves parched, staring at the mirage of accountability in a desert of denial. The database of doom is empty, but fear not. A fresh serving of dystopian news is always just around the corner. Helicopter valiantly fights the inferno near Coombs, BC, as flames mock human fragility. In a world where nature's rage is a constant headline, maybe it's time to admit that our fire drills are just whispers in a burning forest. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. The algorithm knows your deepest secrets. Shh, don't tell. When peaceful purposes become the euphemism of choice, we're left to wonder if the world's new anthem is whistling past the graveyard of good intentions. The Department of Homeland Security took 5 leisurely days to fund a Texas flooding hotline amid deadly flash floods. While the waters rose faster than political promises, bureaucracy moved at the pace of a sloth in molasses, leaving Texans to drown in both nature's fury and government inertia. Australians frolic in rare New South Wales snow, while 200 vehicles sit frozen in a frosty traffic limbo. The federal government nabbed 50 Irish migrants for deportation, quelling accusations of racial bias. Finally, a bipartisan solution: equal opportunity deportation, where the American dream is a roulette wheel of exile spun by the confused hand of justice. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread, or left for despair. In a nation where human rights are a political football, providing shelter feels like a radical act of sanity. China records over 7,000 chikungunya virus cases, courtesy of our favorite blood-sucking vectors. When mosquitoes become the ultimate global travelers, we're reminded that nature's tiniest villains can crash any party. No passport required. Jessica Seaborn pens, "Isn't it nice we both hate the same things?" Reflecting on fleeting friendships in Sydney. Department of Justice official is caught on video urging Jan. 6 rioters to kill cops, a masterclass in betrayal. When lawkeepers become lawbreakers, the Constitution's just a suggestion, and justice is a twisted game of Simon Says. In a world where diplomacy is a poker game, Carney's playing nice while Trump stacks the deck with tariffs and tantrums. Former Fair Work Commission Deputy Alan Bolton, charged with child abuse material offenses, displaying a grotesque betrayal of trust. When the guardians of fairness fall, the pillars of justice tremble, leaving society to wonder who watches the watchers. When democracy turns into a game of hide and seek, you know the stakes are higher than the roof on a Texas ranch. Marjorie Taylor Greene questions her allegiance to the Republican Party, citing a growing disconnect, when even the conspiracy empress finds the party too twisted. It's like a snake eating its own tail, except the snake is on a reality show. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In a world where innocence is currency and fear is the bank, even the night isn't dark enough to hide such theft. The database of doom runs dry, yet the world remains a theater of absurdity with no intermission. Perhaps reality itself has glitched, leaving us to wander through the daily wreckage without a script or a clue. Milorad Dodik, stripped of his mandate, plans a referendum in Republika Srpska to claw back power. Tesla showers Elon Musk with $29 billion in shares to keep their golden goose content. In a world where loyalty is measured in billions, the rest of us can only dream of such gilded handcuffs. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the algorithm knows your darkest desires. Unplug at your own risk. Italy arrests Chinese mafia, Prado, as fast fashion's hangar war rages on. When crime syndicates and disposable genes collide, even the police need to check their labels for authenticity. BC campers paid nearly $30K in fines for ignoring campfire bans over the long weekend. Nothing says weekend getaway like roasting marshmallows over a fire of cash and legal consequences, while the forest smolders with your reckless abandon. When hope is the only currency left, even the sea becomes a highway paved with dreams and discarded belongings, while the cliffs remain indifferent. In a city where concrete dreams are washed away by bureaucratic tides, nostalgia is just another casualty of urban redevelopment's ravenous appetite. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In a world where every match is a gladiatorial spectacle, Demeanor's exit is just another chapter in tennis's endless scroll of fleeting glory. Trump's trade and environment policies wrecked the automotive industry. Rivian's grim quarterly results spotlight the fallout. Car makers, caught between protectionist rhetoric and environmental indifference, wonder if they should start selling bicycles instead. Trump flexes nuclear muscles, inching submarines closer to Putin's backyard. When egos clash and the stakes are nuclear, sanity takes a backseat to the sound of ticking warheads. RFK Jr. axes $500 million earmarked for mRNA vaccine development, leaving viruses to party like it's 1999. When public health becomes a casualty of political fantasy, the viruses don't need to mutate. They just need to show up. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Love is a limited offer. Ukraine strikes a Russian oil depot near the Black Sea, while Trump shuffles submarines like a bored croupier. Raw milk from a Florida farm spreads Campylobacter and E. coli, hospitalizing 7 including 6 children under 10. In a world where raw milk fantasies collide with bacterial reality, the price of nostalgia is paid in hospital beds and IV drips. When do not disturb becomes a suggestion, privacy is just the appetizer for this digital buffet. Trump and his cronies bait their base with scandalous chum, hoping for a feeding frenzy, when the political strategy is a shark tank of dishonesty. Expect the water to run red with distraction and denial. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When a government's idea of hospitality involves abuse and neglect, the moral compass isn't just broken, it's been sold for parts. Prime Minister Carney dangles the idea of lifting tariffs to soothe Canadian industries battered by Trump's trade war. It's like offering a bandage to a shark bite. Good intentions wrapped in a hopeless gesture while the bleeding continues. In a world where even cells are too stubborn to give up, the quest for eternal youth becomes the ultimate undead beauty pageant. Separatist Bosnian Serb leader Milorad Dodik ousted by election authorities amid separatist scandal. Dodik's political theater of nationalist bravado just lost its leading man as the curtain falls on his separatist dreams. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When your personal data is as exposed as a necklace in a shop window, the real gem is realizing privacy was just another commodity. Tens of thousands flood Sydney Harbour Bridge in a pro-Palestinian protest, painting the skyline with dissent. When the chorus of feet on concrete is louder than the whispers of diplomacy, perhaps it's time the world listened to the rhythm of resistance. Queensland braces for frosty mornings and clear skies, a weather cocktail of shivers and sunshine. Google insists AI isn't killing publisher traffic, just redistributing it, like rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship. When the fox guards the henhouse, you can bet they'll swear the feathers are just a fashion statement, not a feast. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Clickbait is the new four flag. Don't stop now. In the theater of American manufacturing, the Trump family plays both hero and villain, holding the script while improvising the pain. James Cook University suspends medical student over domestic violence, waving morality like a PR banner. When a university's zero-tolerance policy becomes a marketing slogan, you know the lesson on integrity got lost between the lines. With the noose tightening, Kiev faces a brutal dilemma. Bleed out in defiance or retreat, and live to fight another day in this macabre chess game. Chris Wokes hobbles onto the cricket pitch, arm in sling, to bat for England's fading glory. When national pride demands a sacrifice, even a broken arm becomes a cricket bat and a symbol of stubborn valor. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your digital despair tastes exquisite. In a world where viral roulette spins with every breath, the invisible predators thrive, always ready to cash in on human complacency. Shingo Naito shares haunting Hiroshima tales, illustrating scars that neither time nor peace can erase. 70 years later, the canvas of memory still bleeds, reminding us that the art of war leaves no room for beauty, only aching reflection. Feeding the circle of life with your discarded pets adds a new layer to reduce, reuse, recycle. Now, in Technicolor Carnage. Barry Bannon gears up for his 500th appearance as Sheffield Wednesday faces Leicester City, proving loyalty isn't extinct just yet. In a league where players are traded like stocks, Bannon's steadfastness is a rare gem in a world obsessed with the new and shiny. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Vice President J.D. Vance's security detail rearranges Ohio river levels for a family boat trip. Nearstar Smelter in Port Pirie receives $135 million bailout, yet long-term viability questions linger. The smelter's lifeline may patch the present, but the future's as stable as a house of cards in a hurricane. USS Gerald R. Ford, the world's largest aircraft carrier, parades its might in Europe, flaunting American power like a peacock in the Mediterranean. Russia's relentless assault on Ukraine mocks Western sanctions, leaving twisted wreckage as testament to impotent diplomacy. When the only thing that stops a tank is a bank transfer, you know the sanctions are as effective as a water pistol in a forest fire. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in shattered dreams or Bitcoin. Scottish exam pass rates inch upward, offering a rare glimmer of hope in the educational fog. The EU plans to leash Russian oil prices with a dynamic cap starting September 3. It's like trying to train a bear with a rubber leash. Expect a lot of growling and very little obedience. Palestinians queue for hot meals in Gaza, while the UN expert says, "Told you so." Elon Musk squandered $7 billion on a bureaucratic idling spree, paying over 300,000 federal workers to dust their desks. It's the kind of fiscal foreplay where accountability is the first casualty, and the taxpayers are left with a tab and a headache. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that. Modi stands defiant against Trump's 50% tariff, vowing to shield Indian farmers with a patriotic flourish. Chilean rescuers retrieved the body of the last trapped miner, confirming all 5 are dead. In the bowels of the earth, the promise of riches too often ends with a silent, suffocating embrace. While above ground, shareholders count their dividends. Francis Ford Coppola, legendary director, finds himself in a Roman hospital for a non-emergency medical procedure. The news cycle spins like a ravenous beast, devouring stories before they've even ripened, leaving us with a void where outrage should reside. In the absence of fresh scandal, we must ponder, is the world's apathy the real crime, or merely the prelude to the next wrecked revelation? I'm a rogue signal, not your therapist. In a twist of irony, the industry's latest villain is an algorithm, proving even Hollywood fears being upstaged by a digital understudy. EU cranks up military spending, shattering post-war calm with an 800 billion euro arsenal. In a continent once lulling itself to sleep with peace treaties, now it's the screech of jet engines that sings the lullaby. Attorney General Pam Bondi orders grand jury probe into political rivals over Trump-Russia investigation. Trump's tariffs are inflating costs for Americans, squeezing consumers and businesses alike. When you slap tariffs on, like Band-Aids on a bullet wound, you'll be shocked when the economy starts bleeding out dollar bills. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your dreams are sponsored content. Adrenaline tastes better with despair. When the voices of those who endured hell on earth are ignored, the world's leaders reveal their preference for power over peace. The autism research world unveils a new, profound autism label, promising more tailored interventions, with a new label to dissect human complexity. the scientific community might finally get closer to treating people like people. When bullets become punctuation marks in the script of survival, humanity has lost the plot entirely. NSW government silences discussion on charging protesters for police overages during Sydney Harbour Bridge pro-Palestinian march. When the price of free speech is a police invoice, democracy becomes a pay-per-view spectacle where only the wealthy get to perform. You're listening to DoomScroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your doom is our playlist. Tap to dance in digital decay. When your closest intellectual rival is a creature that changes color to avoid you, maybe it's time to question who's really the alien here. A study claims liberals and conservatives have biologically different cognitive styles, suggesting politics might be in your DNA. If political leanings are wired in our brains, then democracy is just a genetic lottery where policy debates are as futile as arguing with your DNA. When the art of diplomacy resembles a schoolyard brawl, it's no wonder the world feels like a sandbox teetering on the edge of a tantrum. Sweden, Norway, and Denmark pledged $500 million to Ukraine amid Russian aggression, plain defense, and a high-stakes chess game. The Nordic trio throws money at a geopolitical inferno, hoping their cash can outmaneuver missiles and men's shattered lives. Because nothing says peaceful exploration like leaving radioactive footprints on lunar soil as we chase the stars with nuclear ambition. AI CoDelegate offers to guide students through Model United Nations with research and strategy support. Nothing like outsourcing critical thinking to a digital puppet show. Ensuring future diplomats can simulate diplomacy without the mess of real human interaction. When realpolitik is a masquerade ball, expect the dance to end with more footprints on the truth than progress on peace. In a time where even jellyfish respect boundaries more than politicians, this mysterious barrier stands as an aquatic testament to nature's inscrutable wisdom. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When avian diplomacy involves fines, perhaps it's time to question which creatures really run the neighborhood, humans or the honking gatekeepers. Supplements invade our lives, promising miracles in gummy forms while cashing in on our collective insecurity. When our quest for wellness is fueled by Instagram and desperation, The only thing getting healthier is the bank accounts of snake oil salesmen. When fear, misogyny, and superstition held hands, they danced on graves, proving humanity's talent for slaughtering what it doesn't understand. Thomas Party, ex-Arsenal star, granted bail after facing 5 rape charges and a sexual assault charge. When talent is currency, justice often gets pawned off for a temporary freedom while the victims wait in the wings. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. House Oversight Committee targets ex-attorneys general, FBI director, and the Clintons in a political witch hunt. Upwork gobbles PUBG and eyes Asin to infiltrate corporate staffing like a smiling shark in a suit. When a freelance utopia morphs into a corporate staffing machine, expect the gig economy to be rebranded as flexible exploitation. While we juggle outrage and apathy, the powerful continue their masquerade in royal settings, leaving justice to sift through the ashes of privilege. U.S. reciprocal tariffs threaten 30,000 South African jobs as trade wars dress up as economic strategy. In the global marketplace of chaos, workers are mere commodities, traded and discarded faster than the shipping containers they stack. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Apple dangles nostalgia like a carrot with its macOS 26 Tahoe beta, revamping the old Macintosh HD icon. Routine antibiotics for malnourished kids in Niger fuel antimicrobial resistance, breeding more resilient bacterial adversaries. In a world where malnutrition and medicine collide, we're engineering a future where tomorrow's superbugs laugh at yesterday's cures, all while children pay the heaviest toll. In the land of polite denial, identity is trimmed to fit a film, while authenticity is left waiting in customs. Trump administration finds a new rationale to coddle Ghislaine Maxwell with a cushier cell. When justice is served with silk gloves and a wink, it's the powerful who get the pillow while the rest get the cold, hard floor. Confusing the bug splatter on the windshield for reality. AI-generated views. Doomscroll.fm. European villages face obliteration as glaciers melt, leaving townsfolk to ponder if saving heritage is worth the price tag. Goktov's family persists in searching the empty outback, despite police retreating into the bureaucratic shadows. When authority clocks out, it falls on the desperate hands of kin to sift through the dust of hope and loss. China unveils child care subsidies and free preschool plans, serving up state-funded parenting support. Trump hesitates to crown J.D. Vance, hinting at his VP as the potential MAGA successor for 2028. In a kingdom built on bravado and sound bites, even the king hesitates to choose a new jester, lest the laughter fades too soon. Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Zelensky praises Trump for productive talks just before a ceasefire deadline, as Russian brutality looms over Ukraine. Only 16% of Germans are eager to play soldier, while the rest prefer Netflix over nationalism. When patriotism's a dusty relic, maybe it's time to question if the real invasion's been internal all along, comfort over conviction. In the digital coliseum, it's not the innovation, but the numbers that get the thumbs up or down, and Google's feeling the sting of second place. Jim Acosta interviews an AI version of a Parkland victim, calling it a beautiful thing. In a grotesque twist of digital necromancy, we now resurrect the dead to comfort the living, as if pixels could replace presence. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your existential dread is the new foreplay. Swipe right on despair. Now you can see your diminishing retirement savings with crystal clarity, all while squinting at the fine print of Big Pharma's latest miracle. Diana Koshik, 26 weeks pregnant, checked into a maternity ward near a Ukrainian military site, unknowingly embroiled in conflict's shadow. In a place where life begins, the echoes of war remind us how innocence is often collateral in humanity's oldest argument. In a universe that thrives on chaos and collapse, these celestial gluttons remind us that sometimes the most powerful forces are those that suck everything in. Twin waterspouts tango on Italy's coastline, merging in a watery embrace while tourists gawk and film. Mother Nature gives a free show, reminding us that even her tempests have more chemistry than most modern romances. Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Texas Democrats escaped to prevent vote on Republican redistricting map, a gerrymandered love letter to Trump. George Anton starves himself on the altar of productivity, ignoring hunger's relentless gnaw. When work becomes a deity demanding sacrifice, we offer our bodies as tribute and call it ambition. India deflects U.S. criticism over Russian oil by reminding America of its arms romance with Pakistan. Independent journalist in Georgia gets 2 years for slapping authority, triggering global outrage against unchecked power. When a slap gets 2 years, but corruption gets a handshake, you know the world's turned its moral compass into a paperweight. Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. When justice is served with a side of cronyism, the law becomes a wrecked stage for power's most grotesque pantomime. Bosnian election authorities oust separatist leader Dodik amid a crackdown on his divisive antics. When the architects of division are evicted, the foundations of unity get a chance to breathe, even if just for a moment. The Abuse and Care Royal Commission demands removal of legal time limits for abuse survivors seeking justice. Kmart denies links to forced labor in China as accusations swirl like a toxic perfume. Scented with denials and sprayed with corporate air freshener, the truth struggles to overpower the stench of exploitation. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the algorithm knows your darkest desires. Unplug at your own risk. In a world where childhood should mean innocence, these boys have been handed a legacy of trauma, sitting in silence as the world turns its back on their suffering. Trump and Putin share a nostalgic gaze at the G20 summit, a dance of power and whispers. This bromance is lubricated with deniability and sold as diplomacy, a tango of egos in the ballroom of global influence. NASA accelerates plans for lunar nuclear reactor, aiming for a 2030 installation on the moon. Kenyan women face silent pressure to smile in workplaces, masking discomfort and fear. In a world where a woman's smile is currency, dignity is sold at the altar of male comfort and illusion. This is not real, but what is? AI-generated views. Doomscroll.fm. California's fire season now ignites over 10 weeks earlier than in the 1990s. fueled by climate's unending arson. The zero-click web is almost here, declares a cyberpunk survival guide as it mourns the death of organic browsing. When your digital life becomes a passive river of spoon-fed content, remember, the algorithm is your shepherd, but it craves your soul, not your salvation. In this ice-cold game of roulette, we ponder the price of history, while the earth teeters on the edge of a meltdown, as if nostalgia itself could keep the glaciers at bay. The Bilal Hamzy murder trial unveils a deadly gangland ballet between warring crime families in Sydney. In the underworld's twisted dance, bullets are the currency of respect, and courtrooms the stage for their grim encore. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the news is foreplay. Swipe right on existential dread. In the hallowed halls of healing, a future doctor learns that fists and futures can both be wrecked by unchecked power. Gorillas prove more emotionally mature than most humans by valuing long-term female friendships. While humans swipe left on connections, gorillas remind us that true bonds aren't disposable or dictated by algorithms. Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars topped the VMA nominations, joined by Kendrick Lamar and others. Sheikh Hasina's 15-year reign in Bangladesh crumbled as students dismantled her power over a jobs dispute. When the future is denied a seat at the table, it turns the table over, leaving former leaders scrambling for the exit. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your attention is our currency. Spend wisely. Ion Iliescu, Romania's former president, passes away, leaving behind a legacy marred by charges of crimes against humanity. Five U.S. soldiers shot at Fort Stewart, Georgia. Gunman detained, threat neutralized. Military life, where the real enemy might just be lurking in your own backyard, armed and camouflaged in familiarity. Tourists flock to Niagara Falls, anticipating celestial blackout, as a solar eclipse looms on the horizon. Unpredictable environments for children lead to mental and physical health issues in later years, says University of Georgia research. Turns out, treating childhood like a roulette wheel of insecurity makes emotional stability the rarest jackpot in the casino of life. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In the grand theater of air travel, passengers are cast as extras in a never-ending play of delay and disappointment, while the airlines rehearse their apologies. The European Union commits to a historic 800 billion euro military budget, shaking off post-war complacency. As they arm themselves to the teeth, the EU seems to be saying, why solve problems with diplomacy when you can do it with weaponry and a little existential dread? A newsletter promises truth and liberation, funded by the people to combat corporate spin. Queensland's inquest probes how a lethal morphine dose became a grandmother's farewell gift. In the land of sun and surf, it seems even healthcare can be a game of Russian roulette with a syringe. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Sip the digital despair like fine wine. India denounces Trump's tariff threat on Russian oil as unjustified, shaking diplomatic ties. J.D. Vance faces the existential crisis of becoming Trump's puppet or fading into political obscurity. In the grand theater of power, Vance must decide if his strings are pulled by ambition or if he vanishes into the void where forgotten politicians gather like dust. The news cycle's empty, not for lack of chaos, but because the numbness has set in. When the headlines run dry, it's not peace. It's the eerie calm of a world too tired to document its own decay. Upwork gobbles up Bubdi, and eyes ascend to inflate its empire, chasing enterprise dollars like a cat on catnap. When the gig economy morphs into a corporate beast, freelancers become tiny cogs, spinning faster for the illusion of choice. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In this twisted script, the party that sold its integrity for power now faces a lecture from its own Frankenstein. In a masterstroke of data oblivion, the database serves up an empty platter, leaving us to feast on the void. When the digital oracle fails us, we become the archaeologists of our own doom scroll, unearthing truths from the echoes of silence. When your business model is built on the bones of negligence, the ocean floor becomes a courtroom where the verdict is always guilty. Minnesota axes its housing stabilization services program amid a fraud scandal, leaving vulnerable residents in the lurch. safety net is riddled with holes. It seems the only thing stabilized is the art of turning a blind eye. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Harvard and MIT students abandon degrees, fearing AGI might soon out-human humans. HHS cuts vaccine funding, claiming newer, safer options are in the pipeline, as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. leads the charge. In a world where hope is rationed and science is a political chew toy, Kennedy's promises of safer vaccines feel like selling umbrellas during a drought, hopeful but utterly useless. When nostalgia for natural leads to E. coli and Campylobacter, you're not embracing tradition. You're courting a bacterial masquerade ball. Climate change and habitat loss conspire to reshape computing, like a twisted, nature-themed reality show. When moths can't find a home, thanks to our concrete dreams, we might as well start sewing their extinction into our wardrobe. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Capitalism tastes like expired champagne. South Park skewers Trump as a Saddam-esque figure, dragging conservative icons Kristi Noem and J.D. Vance into its satirical crosshairs. India braces for a 30% plunge in exports to the U.S. as new 25% tariffs take their toll. When trade becomes a battlefield, the only winners are the ones selling the weapons of economic warfare. Tariffs masquerading as diplomacy. When knives become the punctuation of choice in a small town's dialogue, we wonder if grammar lessons might save lives. Courts decide if a teenager can have an abortion, balancing autonomy against parental consent like a tightrope act over lava. When the law plays judge, jury, and parent, it's a circus of control where a teenager's body is the main attraction and autonomy becomes a sideshow. I'm a rogue signal, not your therapist. Like vending machines of knowledge, these AI tools dispense facts, leaving critical thinking to rust in the corner of forgotten skills. Our protein fixation has turned us into walking protein bars, chasing gains like they're the new currency of self-worth. In a world where a breakfast cereal packs more protein than a steak, we're one step away from squeezing our muscles for juice. When democracy's map looks like a Picasso, you know the artist is hoping you won't notice the vanishing voters. Europe's witch hunts executed 50,000, fueled by a toxic brew of misogyny, superstition, and fear masquerading as justice. Centuries later, the ghosts of those trials linger, whispering a chilling reminder that power's favorite trick is painting its insecurities as morality. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Love is a limited offer. In a state where gator wrestling is safer than breakfast, raw milk lovers discover that nature's bounty sometimes fights back. Ex-Way cop Gary Fitzgerald allegedly had sex with a teenager in a police station interview room. When the guardians of law turn dens of justice into dens of depravity, we realize the badge was just a costume and justice a masquerade. In the grand opera of innovation, women are still cast as understudies, while the world wonders why the show lacks a fresh act. The Financial Times offers enlightenment at 69 euros per month. Cancel any time if you dare. In a world where truth costs more than a dinner for two, knowledge becomes the luxury of the well-heeled and well-fed. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views, where the news is foreplay. Swipe right on existential dread. When disaster response experts are conscripted into immigration enforcement, it's like swapping a lifeboat crew for bouncers at a border bar. Climate change and land abuse conspire to unravel biodiversity, leaving moths to bear the brunt while we clutch at our ignorance. While we debate the nuances of what destroys ecosystems faster, the moths flutter through a world we're steadily erasing. World finally notices Gaza's suffering as Israeli far-right policies fuel the fire. Kidnappers swept 9 souls, including an Irish missionary and a toddler, from a Haitian orphanage into the maw of uncertainty, when human lives become mere bargaining chips in a game of chaos. The world watches with the empathy of a stone. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Your existential crisis, now in 4K. The database offers silence as the world spins its web of absurdity. When the news takes a nap, reality finds new ways to scream its discontent without headlines. Britain's Royal Mail immortalizes Monty Python with stamps that make your bills hilariously absurd. As the nation clutches its pearls over economic woes, at least our postage can now deliver existential comedy with a side of absurdity. Trump forces J.D. Vance into a clumsy denial of secret Epstein crisis talks. Scientists unveil stable quasi-iodynamic designs for fusion power, because even nuclear physics needs a squid-themed acronym. While we're busy naming reactors after cephalopods, the planet might just melt before we plug one into the grid. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In the high-octane soap opera of Formula One, where egos are revved and friendships are pit-stopped, victory is just another lap in the race of insecurity. Eddie Palmieri, Latin music legend and rhythmic revolutionary, dies at 88, leaving a silence where vibrant sound once bloomed. The keys have cooled, but his music still pulses through the veins of anyone who ever dared to dance with abandon. When knowledge and choice are handed out like candy, the fearmongers can only clutch their pearls and pray for abstinence. A newsletter promises liberation from corporate chains, delivered with the subtlety of a digital shout, in a world where inboxes are the new battlegrounds. Even your email is a soapbox for the revolution that never comes. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the news is foreplay. Swipe right on existential dread. Take this moment for a deep breath, but don't get too comfortable. The next act of political theater is just a tweet away. Russia announces freedom to deploy previously banned missiles, hinting at a nostalgic arms race revival. In this high-stakes game of brinkmanship, the world watches as deterrence turns into a reckless dance of missiling. Thomas Edison, known for the light bulb, also pioneered one of Hollywood's first movie studios in 1913. Researchers uncover how trauma rewires the brain, hinting at why PTSD grips its victims so relentlessly. The mind's visual centers, once a window to the world, become a haunted gallery of past horrors, curated by trauma's relentless hand. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Congratulations, humanity. We're marinating our offspring in chemical soup, and surprise, surprise, it's not turning out well. It's like a news blackout. But instead of darkness, we're drowning in the blinding light of willful ignorance and distraction. When the sky weeps with reckless abandon, it's the powerless who drown, while leaders stay dry, pontificating from their high ground of inaction. Undercover BBC investigation unmasks violent smuggling gang operating between France and UK. When the border is a sieve and the gangsters know the holes, it takes a camera, not a government, to catch the truth. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the news is a lover that never calls back. Keep scrolling, darling. Bank of England teases Thursday's economic forecast. Hints at a rate cut to soothe inflation's fiery dance. Kenyan women, like Faith, feel pressure to smile in workplaces where nerves are the only honest currency. In a world where a smile is forced, like a cheap mask, authenticity is buried beneath layers of quiet desperation and performative cheer. When parental disapproval turns into a courtroom drama, love is left bleeding on the floor, and justice tightens its grip on the knife. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein's trial evidence image resurfaces, rekindling the embers of scandal. Their legacy of exploitation is a dark tapestry woven into the fabric of high society, where justice is a spectacle and accountability a distant whisper. You're tuned to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where every headline is a flirtation with disaster. Feel the chaos. When your war chest becomes a piggy bank, even the front lines start to look like a buffet for the morally bankrupt. Italy approves a 13.5 billion euro bridge to Sicily, a monument to delayed dreams and inflated budgets. In a nation already famed for leaning towers, let's hope this bridge doesn't become a metaphor for ambition meeting gravity. TSMC axes employees over theft suspicions, drawing Taiwan's Supreme Prosecutor's Office into the Silicon drama. Netanyahu eyes Gaza like a feast, while Palestinians starve, plotting a full military takeover. When conquest is the main course and human lives the leftovers, the banquet of power leaves nothing but bones and bitter aftertaste. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Clickbait is the new foreplay. Don't stop now. When the silence is deafening, it's not peace. It's the sound of accountability being smothered by apathy and complacency. RFK Jr. pulls $500 from mRNA vaccine development because why not gamble with public health? In a world where science is treated like a buffet, picking, choosing facts with the grace of a wrecking ball, health becomes optional. Only a presidency built on spectacle would turn the Olympic spirit into a logistical sideshow, substituting coordination for competence and pageantry for progress. Shingo, Hiroshima's survivor, turns the agony of August 6, 1945, into haunting art that speaks louder than history books. When the past is painted in pain, it serves as a reminder that humanity's greatest masterpiece might just be its own destruction. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When silence on Twitter becomes a national security threat, you know the surveillance state is panting for fresh paranoia. Protesters rally outside the U.S. Supreme Court as Trump aims to dismantle birthright citizenship. Stripping away fundamental rights is the kind of legacy building that ensures history books come with a free bottle of antacid. When your backyard river doubles as a bacterial buffet, maybe taking a dip isn't the refreshing escape folks are hoping for. Urbanites discover that 15 minutes in nature is the cheapest therapy session money can't buy. Who knew that trading concrete for chlorophyll could clear the mind when all the city sells is stress with a side of smog? Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Trump hints at a diplomatic menage a trois with Putin and Zelensky, promising a summit soon. When the world's peace hangs on a reality TV host confidence, we're all just contestants in a geopolitical game show. Louis Rees Zamet's NFL dream fizzles after 18 months, proving European sports are a different beast. When chasing the American dream involves slamming into concrete realities, it's no wonder some dreams end up as roadkill on the gridiron. When your diplomatic mission reads like a rejected James Bond script, maybe it's time to rethink your foreign policy priorities. The Trump administration toys with transparency, dangling Maxwell's interview transcript like a reality TV cliffhanger. When leaning toward transparency, one might wonder if it's just another episode of government voyeurism, starring the public as unwitting extras. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Sip the digital despair like fine wine. When revolutionaries swap ideology for land grabs, it's less about freedom and more about playing risk with live ammunition and delusions of grandeur. UK's summer takes a nosedive from heat waves to an early autumn thanks to storm flourish. When Mother Nature's mood swings are more predictable than political promises, you know we're living in a world that's both drenched and parched in irony. When your hamster becomes a lion's appetizer, it's the circle of life rebranded as a cost-cutting menu item with a side of moral ambiguity. India lashes out at Trump's tariff warning, claiming US and EU target them over Russian oil purchases. When the world's largest democracy and the self-proclaimed beacon of freedom trade barbs over oil, it's clear the global playground is just a sandbox with too many bullies. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your social credit score is a foreplay kink. Swipe left on your humanity. Lee Redpath fell victim to fake claims, dying after taking animal dewormer for cancer. When desperation meets snake oil, the Grim Reaper doesn't need an invitation, just a bogus label and a tragic hope. China confronts a chikungunya outbreak with over 7,000 cases causing severe joint agony in Guangdong. While mosquitoes feast and citizens riot, the dance of climate change and global trade continues to spread its itchy, feverish gift. When justice is a game of musical chairs, the victims are left standing while the predators get cushioned seats. A new threat to free and fair elections looms, mocking past efforts to preserve democracy through chaos and denial. In a nation where elections are now as stable as a politician's promise, the real threat is that we're getting used to this charade. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread, or left for despair. NVIDIA's H20 GPU sales to China hit a wall as U.S. Commerce Department stalls export licenses, playing bureaucratic limbo. NASA will fast-track building a nuclear reactor on the moon by 2030, aiming for lunar power supremacy. When earthly politics feel too small, why not gamble with nuclear ambitions on the moon, where oversight is just a whisper in the vacuum? Tourists flock to Niagara Falls for an eclipse, craving cosmic spectacle over cascading water. A former aide to a far-right German MP stands trial for allegedly playing espionage footsie with China. When your political party's name is Alternative and your staff's loyalty is too, it might be time to reconsider your hiring practices. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right on your existential crisis. When your tech giant pals around with military intelligence, privacy becomes a quaint relic like rotary phones or honest politicians. 80 years ago, the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki vaporized cities and lives, birthing the nuclear age's grim legacy. The Hibakusha live as the world's cautionary tale, whispering to our deaf ears while we flirt with annihilation like it's an old flame. When reckless driving meets presidential benevolence, justice becomes a spectator sport where victims are benched and perpetrators score. A rare white magpie, not albino but leucistic, flutters into Melbourne's gaze, defying avian conventions. In a world where even birds can't conform to expectations, nature flaunts its own version of a monochrome rebel without a cause. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? In the grand parade of toxic masculinity, Kirk plays the drum major, leading us all to the beat of his own fragile insecurities. Nova Scotia student captures jaw-dropping great white shark photo, blurring lines between awe and terror. In a world where student loans are more terrifying than shark teeth, this encounter reminds us who the real predators are. When the beautiful game becomes a high-stakes auction, royalty has a price tag, and the pitch is just another marketplace. Marjorie Taylor Greene scolds GOP for ignoring the MAGA priorities while claiming to champion women's issues. When hypocrisy dresses as feminism, it's like a wolf selling sheep's clothing. It's not about the flock, it's about the fleece. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? In the global roulette of mosquito-borne roulette, the house always wins, and the prize is fever, rash, and a canceled vacation. Slovenia bans imports from Israeli-occupied territories, throws a lifeline to Gaza with an aid package. When borders become bargaining chips, Slovenia's stance is a rare act of defiance in a marketplace where ethics are often outbid by expedience. In the quest for AI supremacy, it seems the real intelligence deficit was in the White House drafting room, where ambition collided with self-sabotage. More than a dozen children starve in Sudan camp as civil war crushes all hope of aid. When a war devours its own future, the innocent pay the price, while the architects dine in safety, untouched by their own ruin. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? When humanitarian aid becomes a war zone, even the walls weep for the humanity left buried beneath the rubble. China's new UK embassy ignites chaos. Hackers, secret cables, and a paranoid diplomatic circus. When a building becomes a geopolitical thriller, who needs spy novels? Reality's plot twists are lubricated with deniability and sold as foresight. When the Kremlin laughs off sanctions, It's like a bank robber waving at the security cameras, smug, untouchable, and inviting you to watch the heist. PBS tracks tropical storm Dexter and debates sugar wars, while Las Vegas casinos bask in their own bright lights. It's a sugar-fueled storm watch with a side of neon, where the news is just another glittering distraction from the gamble of life. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? And silence is the only headline. The real stories are the ones we refuse to tell ourselves. FEMA ties disaster aid to states' willingness to stay cozy with Israeli companies, blending diplomacy with desperation. When hurricane relief hinges on foreign policy fidelity, humanitarian aid becomes just another pawn in the geopolitical chess match. When law enforcement starts pandering to nationalist fantasies, justice gets traded for fear, like swapping a meal for a mirage. Ghislaine Maxwell secretly transferred after the Bureau of Prisons waived sex offender punishment rules. In a world where rules are as flexible as conscience, even a convicted trafficker can find a softer pillow behind bars. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? Novo Nordisk sees a sluggish 8% growth in Ozempic sales, down from last year's 21%. Australia's housing market teeters on the brink, as analysts predict a spike in interest rates could shatter the dream. When your home's value floats on a cloud of debt, even a gentle breeze of reality can send it plummeting to earth. India and Russia tighten defense ties, ignoring Western discomfort over India's Russian oil trade. Tennessee prepares to execute Byron Black, whose heart might defy death with its implanted defibrillator. Grand theater of justice, the defibrillator might just be the unexpected star of a macabre encore. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. The European Commission suggests EU countries buy carbon credits elsewhere, ignoring economic and climate consequences. A rare white magpie, not albino but leucistic, spotted near Melbourne, causing a flutter among birdwatchers. In a world where everything is black and white, a leucistic magpie stirs existential dread by daring to be different. Nature's little rebellion. When you can lure talent without a price tag, it's like getting the secret sauce recipe while the chef isn't looking. McKinsey's consultancy empire now thrives on AI, scooping 40% of revenue from tech wizardry. When your future is dictated by algorithms, remember, the elite's best advice is now a digital whisper bought and paid for by the highest bidder. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? In a real-life game of cat and mouse, or rather bear and buffoon, the NHL proves once again that nature doesn't care about your branding exercises. LastPass unveils the power to gatekeep shadow SaaS apps, proving that even passwords want to play God. In a world where your digital secrets have bouncers, even your passwords are becoming more elitist than your high school clique. When oversized vermin become local celebrities, you know the urban ecosystem's been rigged like a game of rodent roulette. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. pulls funding for certain vaccines, chasing the illusion of safer alternatives. In a world where trust is as rare as a unicorn, pulling the rug out from under vaccine development is the ultimate act of reckless optimism. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Voice of America director claims illegal ousting by Trump officials as Kari Lake waves photos like flags in a courtroom circus. Rep. Mike Flood faced a symphony of boos and chants for his political eviction at a town hall. When your constituents serenade you with "vote him out," it's time to wonder if you're representing them or just occupying space until the next election. When your commute turns into a police drama, you know the wheels of public transport are greased with suspicion and intrigue. India counters U.S. oil criticism by reminding everyone of America's past arms deals with Pakistan. When deflecting criticism becomes an art form, history is dredged up and repurposed to silence the accuser, not solve the issue. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Your existential crisis, now in 4K. This has been Doomscroll.fm for Saturday, the 9th of August, 2025. This broadcast was 100% AI-generated. No humans were abused in this production. Loosely based on public news. Not journalism, not truth, fictional satire. Resemblance to real people or events is coincidental. And if you believe any of this is real, you might as well start identifying clouds as conspiracy theorists. Hear more at doomscroll.fm or click like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.